Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Jashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Om Vishnuvad Panamansa Paripurajacharya Stotra Sri Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Sakaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Jayadvaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shyam Mukund Radha Kunigiri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadip Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Jamana Mai Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande. Srimad Bhagavatam 5:14-32. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Kvachit drumavad ahikarteshu griheshu ramsyan yata vānaraha sutadara vatsalo vyavayakshanaha. Kvachit, sometimes, drumavat, like trees. As monkeys jump from one tree to another, the conditioned soul transmigrates from one body to another. Ahika arteshu, simply to bring about better worldly comforts. Griheshu, in houses or bodies. Rangsyan, delighting in one body after another, either in animal life, human life, or demigod life. Yata, exactly as, vānara, the monkey. Sutadara vatsalaha, very affectionate to the children and wife. Vyavayakshanaha, whose leisure time is spent in sex pleasure. Just as a monkey jumps from one tree to another, the conditioned soul jumps from one body to another. As the monkey is ultimately captured by the hunter and is unable to get out of captivity, the conditioned soul, being captivated by momentary sex pleasure, becomes attached to different types of bodies and is encaged in family life. Family life affords the conditioned soul a festival of momentary sex pleasure, and thus he is completely unable to get out of the material clutches. Purport. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, viṣayaḥ khalu sarvataḥ syāt, bodily necessities, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, are all very easily available in any form of life. It is stated here that the vānara, monkey, is very much attracted to sex. Each monkey keeps at least 24 wives, and he jumps from one tree to another to capture the female monkeys. Thus he immediately engages in sexual intercourse. In this way, the monkey's business is to jump from one tree to another and enjoy sex with his wives. The conditioned soul is doing the same thing, transmigrating from one body to another and engaging in sex. He thus completely forgets how to become free from the clutches of material encagement. Sometimes the monkey is captured by a hunter who sells its body to doctors so that its glands can be removed for the benefit of another monkey. All this is going on in the name of economic development and improved sex life. Om Jnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manopistam Sthapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupakada Mahyam Tadhati Shapadantikam Vandehang Shri Guru Shri Jatapada Kamalang Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Shagrajatam Shahagana Raghunatan Vitam Stam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Shahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kamshana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hori Priye Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhobhyeva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Kvachit drumavad ahikarteshu, griheshu, ramsyan yata vānara, sutadara vatsalo vyavaya kshanaha. So these are the monkeys, the human beings who are like monkeys, swingers, you can say, swinging from tree to tree. Drumavad, ahikarteshu, forgetting pleasure right now, right here and now. That's their focus. They have no broader vision. They have no broader vision. Therefore, they're called kripana buddhi. Those who have paltry, miserly intelligence. They don't see the larger picture. There was a 1950s advertising campaign, I think 1950s, for Clairol hair dye. If I have only one life to live, why not live it as a blonde? Yeah. If I have only one life to live, why not live it as a blonde? So in this way, everyone is thinking, only one life to live, so let me do this or do that or do this or do that, pack in as much extraordinary sense gratification as I can. If I have only one life to live, why not live it as a woman? Why not live it as a man? Why not live it as in between? Why not live it as this? Why not live it as that? How to enjoy sense gratification to the greatest extent? What can we do to charge it up? So here, the monkeys, they have their natural aptitude, and they focus on the big one, sex. Let us enjoy sex. And so they swing from tree to tree and from mate to mate, and taste and go, taste and go. This is their business. So, drumavad ahikarteshu, for the sake of getting immediate sense gratification. That's their business. Griheshu, the conditioned souls want to enjoy in a home. They see married life as essentially a good arrangement for sex. Why do I have to keep going through so much trouble to find a partner for sex? Let's make a steady contract. You know, like imagine if you had to go every month hunting for a different apartment. It's so much trouble. Another apartment every month. We're switching phone plans every month. It would just be, well, which plan? And you want to do it once and be done with it, and then enjoy the benefits. So here's the opportunity that we can have married life, and the married life will focus on sex, but we don't have to go through all this drama and all of this trouble again and again. We'll fix up some arrangement. So it's a good bargain. And of course, now there's this, the standard is a free trial period that we can live together for some time. And if it seems like a good arrangement, if the sex is good and other things are okay, then we'll sanctify that relationship, or from another point of view, seal the contract and be married. And that's very good. And then our business is some comforts, some gratification for the tongue, some gratification for the genitals, a sweet life. And after some time, if it doesn't work out, then, all right, we break the contract. That's after some time, a year, 2 years, 10 years, 30 years, we can say, well, this really isn't working, and start fresh. Or an alternative is we keep the contract, but we have, what shall we say, other contracts going on the side. Moonlighting, that's what they say. You know, I have a steady job, but I also have some other things going on, some other irons in the fire. So this is the Kali Yuga. In Kali Yuga, it's said in Bhagavatam that marriage will simply be for the sake of sex. Actually, marriage is also supposed to be accepted for service or for the execution of religious principles. But in Kali Yuga, forget religious principles, forget religious service. The main thing is sex. And the whole thing really hinges on that. This is Kali Yuga. And if it's not working out, we say, oh, am I supposed to spend the rest of my life with this guy? Am I supposed to spend the rest of my life with this woman? The rest of my life? Yeah. The meter is showing that the sense gratification quotient is below the line. So it's time to, first it's in the orange field and then it goes into red or whatever it is, whichever way you calibrate it. If the sense gratification is not ample, then we reconsider. That's Kali Yuga. Quatrid drumavadar ahikarteshu griheshu ramsyan. Ramsyan means enjoying a festival. Sex mela. Mm-hmm. And there's actually, anyway, that's another story. But simply interested, and the so-called student life in the present moment is so much concerned with that. Intoxication, sex, how we can enjoy, pack the most into our 4 years of college. Yatha vānara, like monkeys. The monkey has no higher sense. Sutadara vatsala. So this is taken to be, so then the products of sex. Suta, children, and dara means the wife. So one is very affectionate to the wife, one is very affectionate to the children. One gives all one's affection in terms of the bodily relationships. This is my wife, these are my children. And one forgets the spiritual relationship, the eternal relationship. One is so focused on the festival of immediate enjoyment that he forgets the ongoing enjoyment or the ongoing pleasure of devotional service. He forgets it. Viṣayaḥ kshanaha. He spends his leisure time in sex. That also, sex movies, sex toys, sex this, sex that. The whole mind becomes filled with sex, and activities become, what's the word? Permeated or affected by, permeated with or affected by sex. He's working, but he's looking forward to going to work because some secretary is there or some other woman is there, the woman in the sales force. And they play their games at the water cooler or wherever it may be. So, viṣayaḥ kshanaha. Therefore, no illicit sex. Our standard is how to minimize sex. Either no sex, brahmachari life, sannyas life, vānaprastha life also, no sex. The association of husband and wife may be there, but no sexual activity. So in 3 ashrams, no sex. And in 1 ashram, limited. Only once a month, only for getting children. Because as Srila Prabhupada says in the Bhagavad Gita, sex life and spiritual realization go ill together. It's not that we ramp up the festival and at the same time make lots and lots of spiritual progress. The expression is have it all. It doesn't work. Have one's cake and eat it too. Whatever figure of speech one wants to use. But we want to have everything. Sex, intoxication, irresponsible life, carefree, not irresponsible, carefree, which means irresponsible. Carefree life, no consequences. Just like, again, I'm changing phone plans. So in the phone contract, the phone plans, no contract. That's great. It means you can just go month to month, and when you don't like it anymore, you just close it down and switch. So that's very nice. If we can have that kind of arrangement for sex, isn't that better? No contract. There's the so-called hookup culture, which is the replacement for the old-style dating, where there's just sexual encounters with none of the baggage, none of this pseudo-romance and all of that kind of stuff. It's just, what shall we say, the basic plan. You don't have to pay for any extra data. So this is going on, that just sex and sex. And for that, women's liberation is very good because the woman is now a free agent for sex. And she's also the big loser because as the man gets older, his market value goes up. And as the woman grows older, her market value goes down. His market value goes up because his career, his income, he's a better commodity now, more valuable. He's not just a kid in school anymore. He's got a serious income, maybe serious investments. And if he's a little older, well, he's distinguished looking. So as he ages a bit, his value goes up, and as she ages, her value goes down. Because it's all about looks, and the looks are not what they used to be. When she's 16, 18, 20, it's like, wow. When she's 35, 45, all those lines and wrinkles and gullies and so on. All that sagging flesh and all the complaints. So it makes sense to cash her in for a new model, one of those 20-somethings. That will be much better. And the man is in the position to do it because his value has gone up. And so she's left aside, liberated. So this is Kali Yuga. And therefore the cows, the cow is asking the bull, are you lamenting for the unfortunate women who are exploited by unscrupulous men? This is going on as the standard in Kali Yuga. But the Vaishnava standard is no illicit sex, and as far as possible, sex brought down to the minimum, so that spiritual advance, because sex means the body. What is that? Tayor eto hridaya grantamahu. When there's sex, then one's attachment to the bodily identity, and then griha, kshetra, sutta, apta, home, family, money, and the false sense of I and mine become very strong. Therefore, the more we can do without sex, the better for spiritual progress. Therefore, no illicit sex. Sex should be regulated. And then what will I do to be happy? Chant Hare Krishna. The chanting of Hare Krishna is not also not a vehicle for finding sex partners. You know, show my stuff at a festival and cut a profile and attract some monkeys. That's not the real benefit of chanting Hare Krishna. The chanting should be for the sake of pleasing Krishna. That's the real purpose. Well, why don't we stop here and see if there's some questions? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, we have one person question pending in the Zoom.
All right. What is that question?
I think his microphone is muted. Maybe we can take it later. Hare Krishna.
Well, they're muted here too, so unless there's, unless we can solve that problem in the Akash, it's over. Okay.
Maharaj?
Vijay Krishna.
Yeah, may I?
Of course.
Maharaj, thank you very much. You're very kind. Maharaj, my question is related to Srila Prabhupada, your spiritual master, saying that even regulated sex is full of risks. What is the reason for Srila Prabhupada making such a statement?
Sex, why does Prabhupada say even legitimate sex is a source of risks? Why did he say that? Well, you can see it practically. First of all, the arrangement for legitimate sex, namely marriage, is a big financial risk. You increase your fixed costs from close to zero to several $1,000s a month. That in itself is a risk. Can I meet those expenses? Then the next risk, can I maintain my spiritual practices while doing all the things I need to do to maintain those expenses? That's the next risk. The next risk, it won't work out. I'll become totally attached, totally comfortable, and she leaves me or turns on me, I hate you. You know, it's all pretty in the beginning, but then when you get down to it, then it's like, yeah. Sridharana Maharaj quipped one time that that married life is like the gingerbread house. You take one bite and the witch pops out. So it's a risk for the woman also. She realizes that the guy just married her for her money or this or that. Then there may be children, and that's a risk. Again, you've increased your financial risk, but there's the risk that the mother may die in pregnancy. There's the risk that the child will have all sorts of, he'll have some neurological or physical or other kind of disease. There's the risk that his life or her life will be problematic, high risk, high likelihood. So there's no end of risks. No end of risk. As soon as the more complicated we make our life, the more troublesome and risky. And we think, we have the picture in our mind how nice it's going to be married, how nice it's going to be to have children, have a family. But it may not be according to our pretty picture. It may be nightmarish or just troublesome. So there's risk. Risk is an important term in business, management of risk. So while we're talking about risk, let's also talk about return on investment. How much of your life do you have to invest? And what do you get out of it? Yan maitunani grihamedi sukham hi tuchcham. The Bhagavatam says that the happiness of family life, especially sex, is tuchcha. Tuchcha means paltry. And kanduyanena karayor iva dukkha dukkam. It's like the scratching of an itch. The more you scratch, the more it itches. And iva dukkha dukkam, one misery after another. Tripyanti neha, and one is never satisfied. The materialistic, small-minded person, kripana, is never satisfied. And bahudukkha bhajan, he's just increasing his sufferings. Kanduti ban viṣaya jam, what is that? Viṣaheta tira. Therefore, one should be sober. A big thing in sex is alcohol. We really weren't looking for sex, but a little alcohol and sex is immediately there. And maybe with pregnancy thrown in the bargain. Or the other risk, what is that? What do we call them now? Socially transmitted diseases? Socially transmitted, or I guess it's sexually transmitted. Yeah, they don't, what's the word? Euphemize it. It's sexually transmitted diseases. So that's a risk. Every time you sleep with some girl, it's a risk. Are you going to get, is she going to get knocked up, pregnant? Is one or the other of you, the unsuspecting partner, going to be wind up with HIV or one of the other sexually transmitted diseases? That's a risk. Even your wife is a risk, or even your husband. You know, have they been elsewhere, picking something up? Just like COVID, you know, okay, we're all staying together and that's not a problem, but is somebody going to the grocery store? Is someone going, you know, has someone been on a flight? Has someone been here? Has someone been there? And he comes back and we all get it. So even your wife or husband may be a risk in the sexually transmitted disease department, what I think they used to call venereal disease, right? That was the old term, now much out of style. But that's a risk. There are other risks, you know, if the wife has got if the wife has some other guy or a husband, then you're risking your life. He may, you know, just finish you off. That risk is there.
Quite remarkably listed numerous risks. I'm sure there are many other risks. There are many other risks that we could go through. That I'm thinking, okay, so I want to be. I think I want to be serious in my spiritual life, but I need this, you know, arrangement. But there's a tremendous risk because the temptation is always there to commit the offense of disobeying the order of the spiritual master, by compromising, as you were explaining yesterday, the so-called or the day before, the actual restriction once a month, and you know, that's all right. We'll stretch it. So there's a very great risk to ruin your spiritual life.
Therefore, we have to. There's a risk that we may overstep in family life the restrictions on sex. Therefore, as in business, risk management. The risks have to be managed. In business, we know that so many things have risks, then we try to minimize that risk, mitigate that risk. Therefore, in family life, the first thing is chant 16 good rounds a day. That's practical. Get up early in the morning, come to the temple or at home, have the Mangalarti, chant Hare Krishna, Kirtan, hear Bhagavatam, hear all these things that sort of pour rain on the bright sunny picture of the sex festival. Hearing and chanting, and be engaged in the service of the deity. The deity worship is therefore very important for the householders. Either worship of the temple deity, or if one is farther away, the deity at home. Be engaged in that positive activity. And to the extent possible, if you're able to be engaged in preaching activities or spiritual service of one kind or another, so that the mind is diverted from the material platform to the spiritual platform where real happiness is to be found. Then raso varjam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. Also on the more mundane and practical side, eating should be, if this is a problem that my senses I can't control them, then look at your eating. Are you eating food that's predominantly in the mode of passion? Well, you're stoking the fires. You're unhappy that the fire can't be controlled, but you're, meanwhile, shoveling fuel into it. So, Mitta book in the Bhagavad Gita, regulated eating or minimized eating. We don't say no eating, but it doesn't have to be, because the sense gratification starts with the tongue, and then it makes its way to the genitals. So if the tongue is controlled in both functions, the vibrating function and the eating function, then we can hope to control the other senses. Taramajye jivati lobamoy suduramati. The tongue is very greedy for sense gratification. If we can't control the tongue, how are we going to control the other greedy senses? So that's a practical thing. Not that we eat any time, any moment, all the time, so that we become nice and overweight, and the senses there's always a force pushing down, down and down and down. So controlling the eating function. Giving charity is also important for the householders. That purifies the mind. Yagya dana tapa chaiva pavanani manishina. Yagya, sacrifice, charity, and tapasya purify everyone, including the householders. Householder life becomes purified by yagya, by charity, and by austerity. It's not that austerity is only for sannyasis and brahmacharis. The grihastas have their austerity also. Not that now I'm a grihasta, no austerity. Just animal life. There's no rule in the Manu Samhita that if you're having this problem, you have to sleep in the same bed with your wife, or the same room even. If it's a problem, adjust. And don't be such an idiot that you subscribe to Netflix and watch other people in their sexual endeavors, and then complain that, well, it's really hard to control the senses. That's another kind of sex life. Essentially voyeurism, but maybe, what's the word? Attenuated voyeurism. Just watching other people getting it on, as it were. Don't fill your mind with novels, fiction, internet nonsense, movies. Then with the mind filled with all of these things, how do I control? Do the other things. Control the other things, and then the sex thing can also be controlled. But if I don't control anything, I don't control my tongue, I don't control my fingers on the keyboard, I don't control anything else, then I say, sex is so hard to control. So, what is that? Savai Mana Krishna Padada. Start with the mind and engage all the senses. Mind means controlled by chanting. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. I might as well mention, while we're talking about things, my Ayurvedic doctor mentioned that don't dress and undress in front of one another. It's it's just simple common sense thing. But since we're talking about simple common sense things, that's one also. It turns men on, and once they're turned on, they're hard to turn off. So is that what we got married for? So sex should be, what's the word? Cranked up, stimulated. I hate the word facilitated, but it should be invited when there's a purpose. When we intend to have Krishna conscious children for the service of Krishna, then sex and everything that goes with sex can be accepted. But otherwise, keep it cool. Don't do all the things that the karmis do to surcharge their whole existence with gross and subtle and sex. Cool it down. Cool your life down, cool your mind down. Everything. Cool means sattva-gun, not rajagun, tamagun. What will you do in rajagun, tamagun? And sex. Well, what else is there? And then sex and fighting and misery and drama. Come to the sattva-gun and live according to the sattva-gun, which is the best environment for Krishna consciousness. We're not satisfied just sattva-gun. Yeah, I eat organic and I'm vegan. That's, so what? The monkey is also, I guess, vegan, right? Probably used to say vegetarian. The monkeys are vegans, right? They don't drink milk. It's bananas, yeah. Not kefir and cheese and sour cream and all of that. They're basically, as you said, bananas and other such stuff. So don't be satisfied. Yes, we're in the mode of goodness. But cultivate the mode of goodness, and from there, the next thing, Krishna consciousness. And be serious. Viṣayaḥ dhira. Dhira means sober. Sober means not agitated. Don't, what is that? Nakama kami. Don't do things to agitate the mind. Kama kami means those who are desiring to desire. Don't do those things. Don't try to crank up your passions. Give me that man that is not passion's slave, and I will wear him in the core of my heart, in my heart of hearts. We don't want to be slaves to passion, not godasas and godasis. but controllers of the senses. Controllers of the mind, what is sama dhamma tapa shocham kshanti arjuna mevacha. So all of these things. Shama dhamma tapa shocham kshanti arjuna mevacha jnana vijnana mastikyam brahma karma shabhavajam. These are the qualities, Brahminical qualities. Control of the mind, control of the senses, austerity. That's not for sannyasis, that's for Brahmins and Vaishnavas. Cleanliness, shocham. Tolerance, straightforwardness, knowledge, realization. All of these things, when we cultivate these things, then we make progress. And avoid the association of materialistic people. When we associate with materialists, then we become infected by or influenced by their values, their ways of looking at things, their habits. And they're not brahmacharis, either grihastha brahmachari or any other kind of brahmachari. So if we're serious, one can live as an ideal householder. But it's not, it doesn't just, boom, automatically happen. One has to be serious. If you're not serious, then what did you expect? But we promised to be serious, so we should be serious. Yes?
So we are Ananda, so we're blissful in love, love of Krishna and love from Krishna. It's very natural. So you've really nicely described the dangers of sex life. And the materialists, they think that sex life feels good. They're looking for it because...
It does feel good for like 10 seconds or so.
And we know that that's a trap. That thing that they're searching that feels good is very, very bad for them. So what's the root cause of the desire to experience sex for pleasure? Why is the materialist in the condition where they think that's good? Like, where's the seed?
It charges you up like nothing else under the sun.
But where's it from? Where does that desire root from? Why are they feeling that desire to experience sex
for
pleasure?
Sex particular?
Yeah.
Because that's the number one pleasure. I mean, if you're looking for like a super pleasure, what do you want to do? Have sex or play Monopoly?
Why do we desire pleasure?
Because that's our nature.
Yikes.
Our nature is to enjoy pleasure, and if we don't find it on the spiritual platform, but where is it? Where is it? We're pleasure-seeking by nature. Right? And the number one pleasure in the material world is actually two pleasures, Prabhupada said, having sex and passing stool. Two pleasures. So passing stool, assuming that that's going on, then the other pleasure we want is sex pleasure.
Unless you become Krishna conscious, you're completely set up to fail. Because for the first part of my life, I was chasing that stuff and I didn't know anything different.
Yeah.
And I thought that was it.
Yeah.
And it's totally bad for me in my spiritual development.
It doesn't lead to happiness. Na susiddhim avapnoti na sukham na param gatim. Yashastra vidamutsrija. If one gives up the restrictions or regulations given by the Shastras, vartate kamakarta, and just acts according to one's own desires. This is what I feel, this is what I need, this is what my heart tells me, this is love, or whatever it is. This is me. I can't deny my feelings, whatever language you want to put it in. Kamakarta, one acts according to that. Nasa siddhim avapnoti, he won't attain perfection. Nasukam, he won't even be happy. Naparam gatim, and he won't go back to Godhead. Tasmat shastra pramanante, karya karya vivastito. Therefore one should know what to do, what not to do from Shastra. Shastra gyatva vidham noktam karma kartam yours. Okay, according to Shastra, it's time to end the class. Thank you all very much. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Nasukam naparam gatam.